I'd like to call to order this special hearing, and now I gotta find my words. Here we go. Public hearing. I'd like to call to order this board special meeting public hearing on September 19th, 2022 at 6:58 p.m. If I can get started, let's start with a roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Mr. De Vera?
All right, and now I would like to call to order this regular meeting of the Round Lake Area School District 116 Board of Education on September 19th, 2022 at 7:09 p.m. If I can, let's get started with a roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Mr. De Vera?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mrs. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Jewett?
Here.
Mrs. Klingler?
Here.
Thank you. And first up is our Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have an agenda in front of us. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, second by Miss Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes. And we have an approved agenda, and first up on that is special recognition and presentations. Yep.
I thought it was me. I just wanted to double check. Good evening, everybody. Tonight's Student Athlete of the Month is going to be a little bit different from how we've done it in the past. Normally, we don't do Athlete of the Month presentations for the summer. But as you may know, we had record attendance at our summer camps in June and July, and a number of coaches and other staff members commented on some really impressive levels of dedication and effort from two of our athletes in particular. And so we wanted to recognize that tonight. So we'll be doing a June Athlete of the Month, a July Athlete of the Month. Those were both for summer camp. And then even though August, we're not in school for very long and it's short, and I don't think we've always done Athletes of the Month in August, we had one student athlete with a pretty impressive accolade awarded to him in that month. So we're recognizing that as well. So to start, we have head girls soccer coach Victor Rico to present the June Athlete of the Month.
Good evening. All right. Better? Yeah, perfect. All right, thank you. So for our June Athlete of the Month, it is awarded to Ari Gonzalez. Ari is what I believe the prime example of a Round Lake student athlete. She is an excellent student. She's a great teammate, so supportive, and second to none on the field. As June, we're not in sports, we're not in season, but one of my sayings is champions are made in the off season. The most growth an athlete can have is in the off season. And let me give you a little example of what Ari's June month was like. So taking advantage of everything that the school provided, we had a power camp, which is a strength and conditioning program that we ran in the school. So Ari was here from 8 to 10 doing strength and conditioning, power camp. From 11 to 1, she would be doing the girls' summer camp. And then she would go home, be back here. 6 to 8, we had a summer league. So on average, she spent around 6 hours a day, Monday through Thursday, whole June and July. With that, never complained, never missed, always a smile on her face, bringing girls along. And I believe that should be recognized. And Ari, thank you for your commitment and good job. Keep it up, and you have a huge, bright future.
Yeah, you're going to be back up 2 more times. All right, next to present our July Athlete of the Month, sorry, is head girls basketball coach Molly Hennig.
So Judy was nominated as our athlete of the month for both June and July, kind of because they both overlap with girls sports. So she went to basketball camp. She went to girls soccer camp, which went back to back. So like she'd have basketball, then she'd have to change really quick, run over to soccer. And then in July, she did cross country camp as well. So she is a 3-sport athlete that really took to that this summer. Just speaking basketball wise, Judy probably grew the most of anyone in our program this summer. We obviously had some big shoes to fill after last season and some of the girls that graduated. And Judy this summer would do whatever we needed her to do. Some nights she would be the only returning varsity kid there, at least the starters. And she really developed her all-around game a lot throughout the summer. But aside from that, she also doesn't only play sports. She also is a horseback rider, which I guess is kind of a sport. And she prepared for a quinceañera, and she also played AAU basketball. So aside from all the camps she was going to, she had 3 other big things going on in her life. And for the most part, never missed any of them, at least not basketball. But I don't think any of the other ones either. So I think that all of that just speaks to her character and her leadership, both by her example and also just what she was able to do and kind of step up and communicate with her teammates a lot this summer. On that, I also want to thank her mom. There, she's also a teacher in our district. She teaches 3rd grade at Village now, and so a testament to her for getting Judy all those places because she's just a junior now. She did not have her driver's license, so mom and aunt and everyone were getting her around all summer. And I think that speaks a lot too to both Judy and all of that her family supports her in. So, congratulations.
All right, last but certainly not least, to present our August Athlete of the Month, head boys soccer coach Hugo Teles.
All right, August Athlete of the Month was Jerry Perez. Jerry Perez, overall, I've had him all his years since freshman year. He's been on varsity. I mean, he is, to me, what pride is in Round Lake. Jerry had the opportunity to play nationals. He had the opportunity to try out for MLS Next Soccer's. He was able to make it and play, but instead of that, he wanted to finish off his career here at Round Lake. To me, that's something special. I mean, to go play MLS Next, that's like the next step to almost making it professional. But he decided to stay in Round Lake and finish. We were, the end of August, we were in a tournament over in New Trier, which for goalkeepers, other teams get to choose who they pick for like the all area team for the tournament. And out of the 4 teams, 3 teams picked Jerry to represent our group stage, and well deserved. He only gave up basically 1 goal in that tournament. And I mean, just comments from other coaches are, just phenomenal. Just, hearing other coaches talk about your players, it's like talking about your kid. And I'm so pleased with him. And again, I mean, congratulations, Jerry, for being Athlete of the Month of August.
And now that Dr. Mendoza has invited everyone to leave, we'll wait for the. All right, now that we have an empty room, we'll start. We will start with long-range enrollment projection study. Dr. Upker.
Ms. Ryba, thank you for staying for my presentation. Well, thank you to Dr. Mendoza and the board for allowing me to come share an update for our long-range projection study. So in FY21, the board commissioned a long-range enrollment projection study, and we are now 2 years into those projections. So we will continue to closely monitor space and staffing consistent with our strategic plan in relation to our enrollment projections. And later tonight, Dr. Mendoza will share some information about our long-range initiatives, and that does include bringing students back into the district from Pleviac. It's important to note that we are exceeding projections at the EEC, Pleviac, and second grade, which directly has implications for bringing our kindergartners back into the district. It's also important to note that our greatest increase in enrollment is in primary grade levels north of town. Now on the screen are our current enrollment for the last 2 years in relation to our projection. And when we did the enrollment projection study, there were 4 different trends. There was a 2-year trend, 3-year trend, 5-year trend, and a 10-year trend. Now the 5-year trend is considered to be most accurate, and historically as a district, that is the trend that we have used. I also want to note that these enrollment totals do not include our Birth to 5 program or our students who are outplaced. During the FY 2022 school year, we were below projections by 182 students. And I'll show this information on a chart on the next slide. But this school year, we are 36 students over the projected enrollment. And we are over enrollment at Pleviac at the kindergarten level by the greatest amount. And you've seen that in the requests we've made for additional FTE over the last month. So this chart shows our enrollment and projection for FY22 on the left and for FY23 on the right. The blue line is the projection and the orange line is our actual enrollment. So you can see that we are 36 students over our projected enrollment. So when we look at enrollment by grade, only first grade exceeded our projection last school year. And you can see on the slide how many students exceeded. But this school year, as our trend line has shown, we're exceeding at preschool, kindergarten, second grade, fourth grade, eighth grade, and 12th grade. And again, our greatest increase is at the kindergarten level, and we've seen that over the last month. This shows our enrollment by grade for FY22, and again, only first grade exceeded projections. This is FY23 enrollment by grade, and again, the EEC, Plevyak, 2nd, 4th, 8th, and 12th grade has exceeded projections. When we look at enrollment by school for FY22, only Indian Hill exceeded projections, but this school year, the EEC, Plevyak, Ellis, Indian Hill, and Round Lake Middle School have exceeded projections, and you can see the amounts there. And again, Plevyak exceeded projections by 36 students. This is the FY22 enrollment by school. Again, Indian Hill exceeded projections, and FY23 enrollment by school, EEC, Plevyak, Ellis, Indian Hill, and Round Lake Middle School exceeded projections. Questions?
Just additional context, just for the board to keep it in perspective. First of all, thank you, Dr. Apgar, for presenting the information. This is obviously something we're going to keep monitoring. I just want to make sure there's not a perceived overreaction to a trend line. So, for example, if you think of Plevyak being over the projection, let's assume that those kids came back into 5 elementary schools, which would be Beach, Indian Hill, Village, Murphy, and Ellis. That's 36 divided by 5, right? It's roughly 7 students per school. If you look at 3 sections per school, that's 2 students per class, roughly. So it's just remember these numbers when you start breaking them out. And it usually never evenly distributed. So I want to say that it's never just a straight math, but it's something that we're going to keep monitoring. Now we have a year where we were under the projection, not, in 22, now we're over. There could be a lot of reasons for that. We continue to see elevated numbers at the high school. We've talked about that for years. And the last thing I'll share is just long term, and then I'll certainly pass it off to you for questions. When we see, we historically have been and will remain thoughtful with our staffing for subsequent years. So when we look at class sizes, there's a guideline we follow. In the contract, it's 29, but we also look for things like hard to fill positions. Like typically, if you're talking like a high school physics teacher, a high school math teacher, bilingual, special ed, we're very, very hesitant to reduce those based on just a math, like a ratio, because of how hard they are to fill. Well, what we're seeing now is given this, we might, if you think about what happened in kindergarten, we had to come back to you for a teacher. It's like most positions are hard to fill now. So we are going to be I know it seems like early, it's only September and we're talking about staffing. But if you think about the amount of time, effort, support we put into our new teachers and what we spend to onboard them, moving forward, we just may be a little more cautious with, in the past, maybe we'd say we want to cut a teacher here, but maybe in some cases we wouldn't for next year. So just something to think about in terms of implications. This doesn't change high level any of our planning at all right now, but now we're starting to, I'll talk more a little bit on the next board item, but we're starting to plan for what's coming. So thank you for presenting. I'm going to turn it over to the board now.
My first question is just going to be real quick. I'm looking at a high level. It looks like most of the 23 overages, EEC and Plevyak would be anywhere. We don't really know, but the rest are Ellis, Indian Hill, and Round Lake Middle. So it looks like that we're definitely picking it up from the Round Lake Beach, Round Lake Heights constituency when it comes to that. Do we have any projections? Are we able to look at addresses for EEC and Plebiac to see where those high are they mostly over on the Round Lake Beach side?
That's a good question. We can definitely track where our students are that are at EEC and Pleviac. Specifically in Infinite Campus, we can see their enrollment path, so we can see what buildings they would go to. So we can definitely track that.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that, just because that gives us a better idea of where they're going and potentially what we need to do. Because to Dr. Mendoza's point, if you look at the pure numbers, it looks like 1 or 2 kids across each school. But if we know that they're all going to just Indian Hill and, yeah, I mean, if we're just going to Ellis and Indian Hill, then we have different issues.
That's a very good point. We can bring that information back to the board.
Additional questions? Yeah.
On the first slide, the total enrollment, your asterisk of enrollment does not include birth to 5. I see you smirking already, so. Our birth to 5 program, but that is in-house, correct?
It is. I did not include those numbers only because our original projection did not include those numbers. But for FY22, our total enrollment was 6556, including our out-of-district and birth to 5 students. And then for FY23, it's 6592, including those students.
So as we move forward, will we include those in our projections?
But to be clear, the birth to 5 students, the families that are enrolled, those students do not have spaces in our buildings. It's a home visit program, right? So they don't come, like, it's not like we have a classroom for birth to 5.
But they will come into our district.
Yes, likely, but in present space, they don't take up current space.
Right, but it's still students we service.
Yeah, what we would do likely is cohort survival. So when we look at what the projection says in the study we commissioned, we're going to know if we had, for example, 42 4-year-olds or 3-year-olds, we kind of know that they're coming in, and we would try to build that into staffing requests. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still valuable information for the board to know. I mean, I know they're not taking a physical space in our building, but it is a student we service.
And I'd even piggyback. Great point on that. Thank you. We can look at that too, based on their addresses, to see which buildings will they be inhabiting at that point. Because yes, you're right. They may not be taking up space in the birth to 5, but once they hit kindergarten, especially once we've brought everybody back, they're going to be in a building for that. So that would give us a projection.
Yeah, the only thing we wouldn't be able to do is build that into a projection. That would be an actual number because we would know what that is. So if we're trying to, just for an apples to apples comparison, what we're trying to do is just see how we're trending. But we definitely, when we bring it back, we can carve that out as a separate number so we can kind of know what's coming.
And that's fine. I'm not saying I'm not looking to see, where they'll fall, but I want to see the full scope of our students that we service. That's what I'm saying.
So Ms. McGinley, I knew you were going to ask me that question. That's why I smirked. But moving forward, I will have that information for you anytime I present.
And I appreciate you already knowing that question in advance.
I don't know if this is a question or an observation, but I thought it was interesting that each grade level actually increased. There's only a few grade levels that didn't increase year over year. And not 4th to 4th, but 4th to the 5th year. It seems like students were picked up along the way. Is any of that COVID related? Or
It could be. I think a big part of COVID was realizing you have choices, and you have a choice where your students are educated. So we did see some students come in during COVID, and I think it is related.
I also wonder if some of the additional students that we've picked up, based from what our projections were, is still the closing of the parochial school in our district. Yeah. I know some families who had elected to go to, the next parochial school found that to be more cumbersome, even though our district is working with that church to get our families to them, they still found it to be cumbersome and thought, you know what, now I'm just gonna send them to my local grade school. Are we seeing, if you know, are we seeing that as well?
I can't say that specifically, but what I will say is when we knew that church was closing, that school was closing, we did reach out to that school and provide resources and information to their principal directly for this reason. So whether they chose now or previously, I think it is related.
I know just in my subdivision, there are families who had elected to send them to that neighboring school, but now they're like, you know, I'm going to put them in what is now my home school.
And this may be for you or Mr. Kozik. Are we able to run a report? That's going to sound weird, but are we able to run a report by button clicks of, quote, new, like move-ins? Students that are not part of a prior year cohort, but part of our population. Are we able to do that?
Yes, we can definitely track that through Infinite Campus.
So one of the things we could do for the next meeting is actually just generate a report internally and see where the new students are coming from. Just generally, we can look at like zip code potentially. I'll talk to you more, but that might answer some of those questions about where the new students are coming from.
Certainly, I'm happy to do so.
Any additional questions?
I was I just appreciate the other attachment you had of the map that kind of shows, the area of our district.
That was Dr. Mendoza's idea.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza.
Tell them put the full report in there as backup information.
Yes.
Because some people want to see more details, some people want the high level overview, so.
I like detail.
Still a little confused by the fact that Round Lake Middle School is not inside our color.
That note, Dr. Apgar, we can look into that.
Noted.
Sorry, I had to write remain silent. What I didn't have was the ability. Okay. Hearing no more questions, perfect. Thank you on that. And guess next up is large scale strategic initiatives.
Yeah, so just you hopefully read the information in your packet. I provided a narrative summary and then an attachment. And essentially, as you know, we've been having ongoing discussions regarding some larger scale initiatives related to facilities and programming. So this information isn't really new, but I want to make sure it's kept on the radar. We did, as part of the year-end wrap-up, shared information regarding bringing students back from Pleviac and having additional programming needs. I also remember roughly a little over a year, more than a year, probably 18 months ago when the architects did the space study, we had an open session, a discussion regarding possible configurations of schools. So this is just a continuation of that. The board should expect moving forward for the next 18 months to 2 years, regular updates on a variety of these things. So to summarize, and for your review, there's an attachment in there that's color coded. It's really from left to right. It's basically this fiscal school year running from September to June 23rd. And I color coded these by buckets so that you could refer to them. And I'm going to go in a little bit different order, but the green bucket at the bottom of the graphic, you'll note it's separated more apart from the other three, and it's closer to the bottom. The reason that's happened is because no matter what happens in the black, gray, like orange or blue buckets, the green is going to happen. So there's not a really dependency. So whether or not we get the preschool construction grant, whatever happens with facility options, which is orange, and then which has a direct impact on things like the Welcome Center, the Annex, the Admin Center, pre-K, we're bringing our kindergarten students back. So the fall of 23, unless something highly unusual happens, I always leave myself like 1% out. You should expect kindergarten students will be attending school in the district. That's what that green pathway is designed for at the bottom. I do want to call this out as part of and you'll get more information. We're not going to get in the weeds on this evening, but at some point, while we're presenting both information, I think the district, the administration does need to take a position in terms of here are the two options, here are the pros and cons of each. Here's kind of what we believe, this is what we want to do. Now, that doesn't mean we are going to do. It means what we want to do. Then you can see there's arrows designed to talk about two different vetting processes. One is going to be problem solving with both options with the association, because there's a lot of moving parts. How do people move buildings in either one? We have to do that. And then Heather will lead a vetting process with the community. She'll talk more about what that looks like in the future soon, at definitely an October meeting. But it's essentially educate, inform, feedback, problem solving. We will bring that information back to you as a board so you have it as part of your decision making. And then the plan in March, I know it seems like a long time, but that's when we would say we plan to implement, this is what we are going to do based on all of the work that's been done. And then frankly, to the right of the June time frame, there could be, I guess I could have used a landscape, like a bigger sheet of paper. It's going to keep going because we have a whole nother year of planning, right? So kindergarten students are plebe this year and next year, and it's the year after that they would actually start. Wanted to give you additional information regarding the preschool construction grant. You can see the timeline there. That's kind of in process. And then we are exploring facility options. I'm not going to say what those are in public for obvious reasons, but we are looking at exploring facility expansion. You're going to see those those arrows that go up and down, that tee off of that area. That's because that's going to have a direct impact on those. So if we can't get more space, it's going to be really challenging to expand on early childhood, even though late last week another option became viable, but I don't want to get into detail right now. I'll share that with you in a different venue. And then obviously, if we can expand facilities somehow, that opens up options for the Welcome Center, the Annex, the Admin Center. It affects all those. And then lastly, and in closing, I do want to keep on the radar, because this does need to be addressed also, is, Murphy Elementary needs an elevator, and they're the only elementary school without a dedicated cafeteria. The reason I call that out is obviously the ADA issue is a thing. It's important. We need to address it, but it's also an equity issue, right, with our kids. So I put this all together because I think I'm going to state the obvious. These are all competing for resources, right? So we can't do everything all at once, but it's just something I want the board to keep on the radar. Like I said, this is a topic that we will continue to bring back to you. And either probably the first meeting in October, we'll have more information on like the vetting process with kindergarten and bringing that back. So at this point, I'll pass it over to the board to see if you have any questions about any of this. Happy to answer questions.
I'm very happy with the summary. Not hearing any questions, so thank you. Oh, there we go.
He saw me brewing.
No.
So this is a lot. And so I'm just, two questions. It's more around wondering, from a project management standpoint, are you managing all this?
So, no.
And the tone wasn't like, are you managing?
So what I would say is I am providing the oversight, but we have a very talented team, and there's different individuals that own these. So there's a certain owner of one, a certain owner of the other. And then frankly, we do meet every week, and we are talking about this every week. So yes, these are all running in sync, and there's reasons why. Like somebody might say, well, why don't you just hold off on the preschool construction grant? You've got a lot going. Well, the problem is if we don't apply, I don't know when the next round of funding is going to come. And there's also a staffing funding option. It doesn't fund all of it, but if we don't apply for it when the application becomes available, we may lose those dollars. The kindergarten issue, that's time bound. So we only have 2 years left on the lease. We don't plan on extending the lease. But in order to do the preschool construction grant, if we're going to apply for that, we have to have space for it, which is why that contributes to the facility exploration. And that has a direct impact on everything in blue. So yes, it is a lot. I couldn't agree more. But I'm confident we'll manage it, and we'll plan for how one impacts the other as we continue to move forward. I knew this was going to be a lot. We talked about this in May, I believe, when we did the year-end wrap-up. But I think the reason I put this together is actually that point, Mr. Jewett, is it's a lot. But I wanted the board to see how it all worked together.
The second question is, I'm almost wondering, this isn't a recommendation, I'm just wondering if there should be a spot on the calendar every month because there seems like something's going on every single month.
There will be updates every month to the board. So you will get some form of an update. Yes, absolutely.
Just a question, you mentioned Ms. Bennett going to the community, and was that in October?
So actually, the arrows and the bottom, the reason they're spread out between beginning of November all the way through March, that's designed to imply that happens in November, December, January, February, March.
Okay.
So it's an ongoing process. And Heather will bring back what that looks like specifically, and it's not going to be one strategy. There will be multiple strategies. I don't want to speak for Ms. Bennett, but we have a community engagement committee. We have meetings we can conduct at the schools. One of Ms. Bennett's initiatives, I think it's in the strategic plan, is building parent partner groups at each of the schools. You could use that as a vetting group. So it's really designed to be multi-pronged, and I think we learned our lesson in 13-14 with the referendum when we tried to just have a meeting here, multiple meetings, and think that people would just come to us. It just didn't work. When we kind of were proactive and went to people and targeted groups to kind of educate and inform, that just worked better. We passed it in a landslide, many of you remember. So
Thank you for the clarification.
yes.
All right, next up is Ms. Belciotis and our annual website postings.
So every year we have to bring this to the board. It's a requirement that we have to post the administrator teacher salary report, and then also the IMRF employee salary report for those individuals that have a total compensation over $75,000 per year. These are all already approved salary and benefits, so it shouldn't be a surprise. It's just that we're required to bring it forward to you for review before we post it before October 1st. Any questions?
Nope, very clear for me.
Okay, thank you.
Hearing none, thank you very much. All right, next up is our monthly review of the strategic plan goals.
So this is our first formal update of the year, and I just want to call this out, and it kind of goes to what Mr. Jewett said. The last agenda item that I just covered, those aren't even called out in here. Those are broader, kind of larger scale things that aren't even in here. So I guess my point is to reaffirm we have a lot going. But again, the strategic plan, we have targeted work being done this year. I think each of my administrators, just because it's the first one, will maybe call out one that they want to highlight. I'm going to start with Dr. Center. We can just go Dr. Center to Dr. Lamping to Miss Bennett. Then, anybody else on the team that wants to call something out. Go ahead, Susan.
So the one I want to point out is the one that I've marked yellow right now, which is theme C, goal 1, continue implementing and improving the pre-K-12 SEL program. So as you know, our SEL coordinator resigned sort of midsummer. And in rethinking that position and the goals that were associated with that position, I'm looking to see if we can absorb that responsibility rather than continue to hire a separate position. So I'm looking at how we can accomplish those goals within the existing structure of my department, I guess. And we still have a couple of SEL specialists working in the district, and we're maintaining the program that we were implementing last year. So we're not going backwards, we're just kind of on hold right now. So that's why I thought marking it yellow would indicate that we're holding with what we had from last year and reorganizing some of those responsibilities.
Okay, there's a couple that I want to highlight.
With, as you mentioned, that change, when do you think a determination would be made? So we know that this is either back on track or how this shift is going to happen?
I anticipate you'll know at the next board meeting. So, yeah, I mean, I've spoken with Don on multiple occasions and we have a plan worked out. And so we just wanted to kind of make sure all the pieces were in place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there are two that I want to just highlight. The first is just to wrap up the summer construction projects that complement the work on the long-term, long-range facilities plan. That was the asphalt resurfacing at Ellis Elementary, the playground, the asphalt resurfacing at the teacher parking lot at Beach, and the installation of one chiller and two boilers at the Early Childhood Center, replacement of the two large HVAC systems, the Mammoths at the high school, and the replacement of the 4 new HVAC units at Village. The Village and high school also included new ceilings and new lights in the designated areas. The other thing that I'd like to point out is the work on the Grow Your Own teacher coursework. 15 students are enrolled in the Educational Psychology first semester and Intro to Teaching second semester. Students are scheduled to visit college campuses to meet education majors, and the administration developing a plan to move the program forward. So that's very good news in light of, our teacher shortage looking forward.
Questions for Dr. Lamping on that?
Okay, for theme D, the parent community and school partnerships, I'll call out two that are somewhat tied together. The release of the comprehensive communications guide to all staff this year. And I really wanted to highlight and thank the webmaster team led by Katie Holland, our digital media specialist, in really pumping out some really amazing social media content already this school year. We've seen a tremendous improvement in that area this year. We've got somewhat of a new team at some of the schools, and the tools that Katie has put together to help support those roles has been a great help so far this year.
I don't think Dr. Kibbins is going to give an update. You pretty much heard some positive information on the budget this evening, but we've got a lot of work, targeted work this year where I don't know about the team, but I think for the first time since February of 2020, I feel like a regular school superintendent again. And it's nice. I mean, it's quick. There's a lot going, but it's just nice to be in that space again. So.
All right. Next up is our disposal of materials. So again, what in the world are we throwing away this month?
I think this month we have some really fine items. So if there are any questions on that list, please let me know and I can see if we can pull them from the dumpster for you.
Any questions from the board? As always, thank you. Next up is the FOIA report. Any questions from the board in regards to the information enclosed therein? Hearing none, next up is our review of contracts under 1,000. Any questions from the board in regards to those? Or lack thereof? Hearing no questions there, we will now skip to opportunity for public comment. And as always, members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or by submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Electronic public comments will be accepted up until 12 p.m. on the day of the regularly scheduled board meeting, and the public commenter will be contacted to confirm identity. Once confirmed, the electronic public comment will be provided to all board members in written form, and a link to the electronic public comment can be found in the enclosed documentation. We had no electronic public comment submitted for this meeting. Do we have any public comment? No. Okay. Oh, yeah!
So I participated with Pleviac at the homecoming on Saturday. It was wonderful. We had a huge crowd, a lot of people, and a lot of participants. It was really nice.
And I will say, Pleviac's float was very nice, very, very nice. I also didn't need to see the numbers though. That scares me as a
Makes me feel a little
personal.
old, yeah. Thanks to Sandra Vega, that was her vision, our secretary.
It was amazing. It was a great job. All right, next up are the superintendent's report, and Dr. Mendoza, take it away.
Thank you, Board President Francisco and Board of Education. As always, we are communicating donations made by various community groups and partners. United Way of Lake County donated backpacks and school supplies to Ellis. Anna Zambrano donated pens and pencils to Beach, and then AbbVie donated school supplies to all of our elementary schools. The Education Foundation will host a Nosh, Nibble, and Pain fundraiser event on Sunday, October 9th, 2 to 5 p.m. at the American Legion in Round Lake Park. Tickets are $40 and may be purchased on the foundation website. And last but not least, we'd like to thank Heritage Church once again this year for including the district in their annual Teacher Appreciation event. Tomorrow, the Heritage Church community will be providing free pizzas to all staff who sign up for the event. Over 450 Round Lake staff will benefit from Heritage's kind gift this year. Heritage has hosted this event for several years, and we are so grateful for their continued partnership. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. Any questions for Dr. Mendoza? Hearing none, I will turn it over to Ms. Negrete McGinley and the Finance Committee update.
Yes, thank you. As you know, we have the Finance Committee meeting. So first, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming down to the theater to see the investment put into the sound system. Hopefully we'll get the one part to work, so. But we still got to see the new speakers and hear the sound. So see, what the kids will be working with, and as audience members, what we'll be able to hear. So thank you to Dan and everyone who worked on that. We talked about the fiscal budget, which we had the hearing, and of course that'll be on the agenda later this evening. I think, I would just reiterate everything Dr. Kivin said regarding, being fiscally prudent, watching our budget, the tax collection and everything that she spoke to. Next, we had the lease for the Village of Round Lake, the Welcome Center lease. That was a 4-year lease, and we are renewing for another 4-year lease agreement with the increase for the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, or 2%, whichever is less. So obviously we're going with 2%. We do have an out for this lease. As we know, we have the construction of Cedar Lake Road that is happening, and of course, as you saw in Dr. Mendoza's scale of, with Pleviac and kind of the moving pieces that we have going on. So we do have an out. So once those things commence, and we need to, if we were to vacate that, we just need to give them 6 months notice. The new rent increase, lease increase, will start with next month, October 1st, with our new lease payment being $3,456.35 per month. This will come to the next board meeting for approval. Cheerleading. Ethan's doing a great job. Previously, as our cheer competitions happen, every cheer gets a choreographer to compete at all the competitions. Previously, those costs were absorbed by the cheerleaders and their families. It's about $1,800 to get a choreographer, so then that was split amongst how many girls were on the team. Yes, it's expensive. Ethan has come in and has worked with our cheer coaches to let them know that it is in his athletic budget. So it is now going to be absorbed by the athletic budget and not by the cheerleaders and their families. Yes, that is an amen to many families. So you'll see those contracts come forward next month. And as a cheer mom, I can say how grateful that is. It's an expensive sport. Conscious Campus Contract. Don't ask me to say that fast. That is for the high school. This is a national level speaker that Mr. Peterson wants to bring in for the freshman and the gold program students. Helps meet some of our professional development, and of course helps setting that expectation for our freshman students as they move forward in the high school. He is a national speaker. His name is Ken E. Nowalgic. I don't know if I'm sure and I apologize for mispronouncing his name, but he is a national speaker, and you'll see, I asked to make sure they promote that on social media so that we could see, because I think it'll be a great event for our freshman students. That contract will come forward next board meeting, and of course that's coming out of the high school budget, but he's a very good speaker. Mi Amigo contract. This is for Ellis Elementary. This is a songwriter musician. This is for all of Ellis School. It's a concert for those students. One of the things that had come up when we were talking about this in finance is, do we do this at all the schools? Because this is like Mi Amigo. So each building gets to select their own, what they want to bring in-house. We just asked, how do we make sure it's equal across all those elementaries? So Dr. Rowling said he will bring that up at the next principal staff meeting. Because you see some and you don't see others, so we just want to make sure that all our buildings are getting these opportunities. And then the Round Lake High School Homecoming DJ contract, which is on the agenda for this evening. Obviously, this is the DJ for homecoming, so it will be inside. It'll be here in the building. We don't have to be outside this year. So very excited for the students this year for homecoming. Then you have the Finance Committee informational items. One of the items on there is the BPAC Parent University Presenter Agreement with Dr. Ramirez. That is on the agenda for approval later in the agenda, and this would be returning. He's been here previous years. And then we also have the audio visual AV specialist position. That again is on the agenda for later. This position would relieve Mr. Albers of his coming here for board meetings in the evening. So we support it, and I'm sure he would appreciate your support as well. And that is it for finance. Mr. DeVera? Any questions?
Thorough as always. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have minutes to approve. I need a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 12th, 2022, regular board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mrs. Larson. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. DeVera,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Abstain.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Abstain.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the accounts payable report for $573,803.02. The previous motions report for $1,081,079.77. The August 2022 Treasurers Report, the August 2022 P-Card Report, September 19th, 2022 Employment Report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Any questions? Roll call, please.
I just
Oh,
have a
yes,
really quick.
please.
I'm very
Sorry.
sorry. I don't know if I should bring this up now or like for future agenda items, but I wondered when we do like repair work on the vehicles for driver's ed, is it possible that we could be notified? Just like, and maybe like a weekly update? Because I'm just, when I'm looking through it, I'm seeing that there's sometimes like pretty large amounts of money, and I'm just like curious for the breakdowns of those. If we can. Like if it's not a pain in the neck or anything, but.
What are you calling out? Maybe I'm lost, and for
Well,
that I apologize.
Because I'm wondering if they're like repairs in the vehicles or if they're accidents that have taken place.
Usually if there's accidents, we get it notified by the administration if those kinds of things happen.
See, I don't know if we do though. That's why I'm wondering if we need clarification. So I apologize if it's not the right time to bring it up though.
So we can do whatever you want. That seems a little bit narrow in scope, but if we tied it to providing some general summaries, because I know last year we had a pretty big accident, expensive one, and we could roll it into something like that, because then it would. I'll get you anything you want, but we get in a little bit narrow then because we do repair a lot of things in the district. We repair HVAC systems. We have instructional materials. So where's the line on that?
True.
No, but I know why you would ask that. That was something we actually talked about because I think we had a $10,000 repair. Am I right? With a student who made a wrong turn. So if that's kind of the issue, we can provide a periodic update on how our kids have done. And then we can present it kind of a little more globally as opposed to there's an accident this week, repair. There's an accident next week, repair. Or even not even accidents, but just general repairs to the car. So I need you as a board to give me direction on that.
I guess it's up for discussion or whatever you want. If we want to like do it as a future agenda item or something, but I just wanted to. I was curious about it because when looking at this, there has been several in the past pretty large ticket items regarding that specifically. So I was just curious about it.
We also have, we also do repairs on O&M vehicles, so we would just have to separate that because we're the ones that take them in from an operations standpoint.
Well, in relationship to the behind the wheel accidents, we submit those claims to our insurance company. So our deductible for any accident would be $2,500. Anything over that, we would receive a reimbursement. However, in order to receive the car back from us, they need a check. So we would cut that check as a previous motions check, but then we'd be reimbursed from the insurance company. So technically, it's not really an expenditure. Along those lines, certainly whatever direction Dr. Mendoza gives me, I'll do, but it's not that large of an expenditure. Any other expenditures that we had would be something that the board has already approved a large contract for, and so because that contract's been approved, we're just paying out, for example, on some of the construction things along the way.
Actually, that's great clarification. Thank you. If that's the case, then I guess it wouldn't be necessary. It was just more my curiosity as to what was going on with that, but that's very helpful. Thank you.
If anything, well, in terms of what significant means, we try to inform you of, like the last time, that would be, we'd call it out, hit by a bus, made a wrong turn, pulled the whole door off, those types of things we would make you aware of, but you know what I mean.
Let's not put all that in the universe, please.
So, yes. So we would try to be thoughtful with those types of things, but if you're agreeable to that, we have no problem doing that.
And Mr. Jarrett, we're not trying to go PTSD on you.
No, I just see Zach by that's all right.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, absolutely. And let's go with a roll call.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco.
Yes. And motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the independent contract agreement with Dr. Fernay Ramirez in the amount of $1,800.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Klingler, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the fiscal year 23 balanced budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. De Vera. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the 2022-2023 school improvement plans.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Mrs. Larson. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the request for the reduction of 1.0 FTE instructional technology audiovisual specialist and an increase in 1.0 FTE audiovisual specialist.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. De Vera. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the DJ contract with Ideal Entertainment LLC for the amount of $1,500.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Mr. De Vera. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. De Vera,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler.
Yes.
Motion carries. Now we come to the positive occurrences time in the roll. Take it away.
I'll go. This was the first year that I got to ride in a float for the homecoming parade I worked last year. And I got a different perspective than I'm usually standing on the street with one child usually. What a fantastic turnout. I just thought it was great to see everybody out in the streets and all of the students that participated. I was sharing pictures of the parade with my coworker who goes to Grays Lake North, and they don't have anywhere near the parade that we do, and so she was a little jealous. And also, I have to say that they don't get a lot of press, but the freshman soccer team is doing amazing. They're really fun to watch. I spent my whole high school career being a baseball mom or a marching mom, so the whole soccer team is new to me, and except for my AYSO, but they're doing really, really great, and I think the varsity team plays tomorrow against North Chicago at home, so we're gonna go watch that.
Okay, I would just like to point out that our flow was awesome. Janira, you did a great job. It was beautiful. Also, the marching band went and had a competition, and it was awesome. And they got third place, and then the drum majors got second place.
Keep going down the line. Anybody?
Well,
No.
I was
Go ahead, please.
just gonna say, as they mentioned, the homecoming parade, but, I'd like to thank the community, because the community came out in droves, to support of the high school and the students and all involved. So it was, appreciation to the community.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on the community one especially. Don't know if it's because this was really the first time we've had it since 2019 because of COVID. But also it was great weather. I mean, normally we're freezing or swimming. And this one was just amazing weather. But the entire turnout of the community along the streets and along the passageway was great. Now, if we can just calm the fire trucks down a little bit, we'll be fine.
I talked to Eric.
Good. But yeah, no, it was amazing turnout. It was great to see the whole community out and about, and definitely for everybody who may be watching or watching it in review online. Homecoming game is Friday night. That'll be a good time to come out and see everyone as well.
I'm going to throw out there, I'm really excited the kids can have a dance this year. And that we're back for that. And they're really excited, and seeing all the decorations and just all the activities. It's very exciting.
They're with the DJ. And then I will, anybody else have any other, because I'm going to close us on one positive occurrence. For the fourth consecutive cycle, our board has been awarded the IASB Governance Award. We did just get notification today. In this cycle, we were one of 33 boards across the state of Illinois to earn the 2022 School Board Governance Recognition designation. And again, keeping in mind, this is the fourth consecutive time that we've earned it. We earned our first one back in 2016.
Just to put it in perspective, there's over 800 school districts in Illinois and 33. One of 33. That's really good. So
that's an interesting question. And if I know I've played back and looked at it, there's a very small number that have been able to keep the streak going. So
it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure.
Amen. Yep. No, it's definitely, even though this is a board award, this is actually an award to everyone in the district because it's the administration, it's the staff, it's the students, it's the whole 9 yards. Because while it's awarded to the board, it's what everyone under that's there that's doing the work. And really, this is a complete and total district award, and the continuous excellence that we've been putting together for it. So each and every one of the administration, staff, everyone in every building across our district, this one was earned by you all.
I did have one more, but a future positive occurrence, but just a reminder that the Fine Arts is having their trivia night on the 30th. So it is all over social media. If you guys are free, they would love the support and come out and do trivia. I know last time Dr. Mendoza, our team won the trivia contest, so.
You guys gotta come out, or otherwise you have to deal with Patty here. I'm just saying. Yeah. Use the mean kindergarten voice. It'll happen. You guys just come out.
All right, then next up is future agenda items. If you got them, float them.
So I have one item that kind of already put this in Dr. Mendoza's ear regarding visiting ROE, Regional Office of Education. As we've seen, if you want to say vocational, it's Tech Campus at CLC. Maybe it's time for the board to visit where Regional Office of Education, Safe School.
And I know it's on the agenda, but I'll keep throwing out there the warehouse and the church.
Field trips.
Yeah, see, I didn't have my parents' signature. That's why I wasn't able to make it to the theater today. So that was my bad because I didn't get my parents' signature.
And then I have one more as the administration, Dr. Lamping specifically was speaking, and she's looking at me already. The Grow Your Own program, she spoke to that very briefly this evening. Could we get some more, I don't know, maybe you already had plans on presenting it, but I would love to hear more regarding that.
No problem. Probably maybe toward the end of the semester, the beginning of the second semester, so we can, because the first time we've run it, we can talk about how it's gone, what's next. We'll have Dr. Rowling or Dr. Center present.
Perfect. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think we have anything else in regards to that, so I think we're going to move to the approval of closed session minutes.
I need a motion to approve of the release of previously unreleased closed session meeting minutes, July 2020 through December 2020, and second reading of those September 12th, 2020 memo.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Mrs. Klingler. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion for the approval of the destruction of closed session audio recordings from December 2020 and prior.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Klingler, seconded by Miss Lee. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Klingler?
Yes.
And motion carries, which now brings us to an adjournment, and I will call us adjourned at 8:22. Everyone have a great evening.